The drive to Eden Sanctuary was like slipping into another world. For miles, there was nothing but wilderness, a dense sea of trees swaying gently under a pale sky. When the sanctuary finally came into view, Alex's heart skipped. The pristine, futuristic complex gleamed like something out of a sci-fi movie, its white walls reflecting the late afternoon sun. Beyond the towering security gates lay lush gardens and winding paths dotted with peculiar statues. Alex thought they resembled animals at first, but realized upon closer inspection that they were something else entirely, something wrong. A sleek woman in a tailored white coat greeted Alex at the gates. Dr. Eliza Kane. She radiated the kind of cool, effortless authority that made you feel like you didn't belong. "Welcome, Alex. You're a crucial addition to our team," she said, her voice clipped but warm. "We're not just running a sanctuary here. We're rewriting the rules of biology." Alex had spent years dreaming of working with exotic creatures, pushing the boundaries of veterinary science. This was it, the opportunity of a lifetime. Inside, everything was pristine yet unsettling. The main lobby was silent save for the soft hum of machinery. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic. Dr. Kane led Alex past towering glass enclosures filled with animals, or hybrids, as she called them. A serpent coiled lazily in one tank, its scales iridescent like a peacock's feathers. In another, something feline but winged prowled, its golden eyes following Alex's every move. "They're incredible," Alex murmured, unable to tear their gaze away. "They are, aren't they?" Dr. Kane smiled. "But remember the golden rule. Never interfere with the natural order of the hybrids, no matter what. You'll come to understand soon enough." Something in her tone made Alex's stomach knot, but before they could ask for clarification, Kane moved briskly on. The staff quarters were luxurious but sterile. Cameras monitored the hallways and common areas, their red lights blinking like tiny, watchful eyes. Alex tried not to think about it as they unpacked, eager to make a good impression. The days were long but rewarding. Each hybrid had its quirks and challenges, and Alex threw themselves into the work. There was Pax, a griffin cub with downy feathers and an uncanny ability to mimic human expressions. Then there was Levi, a reptilian hybrid that could shift the color of its skin, blending seamlessly into its environment. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being studied just as much as they were studying the creatures. Pax quickly became Alex's favorite. The cub had a mischievous streak, often stealing small tools or nipping at their sleeves during feeding time. But there was something else, an intelligence in its golden eyes that felt almost human. One night, as Alex was preparing to leave the lab, Pax pressed a clawed foot into the dirt of its enclosure. It scratched a pattern, a series of loops and lines that looked eerily familiar. Alex didn't think much of it at first, but later that night, as they lay in bed, the image burned into their mind. It was the sanctuary's logo, the same symbol emblazoned on every uniform and piece of equipment. The first true alarm came a week later. Alex had been working late, documenting Pax's feeding habits, when they noticed the time. Nearly midnight. They were scheduled to have a day off the next morning, and Alex was looking forward to a break. But when they tried to leave the compound, the gates were locked. Not just closed, locked. A biometric scanner blinked green when Alex pressed their hand against it, but the gates didn't budge. Dr. Kane's voice crackled through a nearby speaker. "A minor security measure. I'm afraid you'll need to remain on site until further notice." "Why?" Alex demanded. "I was supposed to leave tomorrow." "There's been a situation," Kane replied, her tone unyielding. "Stay focused on your work. It's for your safety." The line went dead before Alex could protest. Unease churned in their gut. When Alex returned to their quarters, Riley, a senior handler, was waiting in the hallway. "She pulled a lockdown card on you?" Riley asked, their voice low. They looked gaunt, like they hadn't slept in days. "What's going on?" Alex asked. "Don't push," Riley warned. "Just do your job and keep your head down." Pax's behavior grew stranger. The griffin seemed restless, pacing its enclosure and scratching the logo into the dirt again and again. Alex tried to ignore it, but the tension was building. One night, Alex woke to a sound at their door, a soft tapping, almost like a knock. They froze, hard hammering. The taps came again, more insistent. Gathering their courage, Alex opened the door. Encore, Pax stood there staring up at them with its piercing golden eyes. It had somehow escaped its enclosure. Before Alex could react, the griffin turned and padded silently down the hall, glancing back as if beckoning them to follow. Against every instinct, Alex obeyed. Pax led them through the labyrinthine facility to a door marked restricted access. It was ajar. Inside, the air was colder, the hum of machinery louder. Alex found themselves in a laboratory filled with tanks and monitors. The tanks were filled with something organic, fleshy, pulsating masses suspended in murky liquid. Then Alex saw it, a human hand pressed against the inside of one tank, its fingers twitching. A cold dread settled over them. The hybrids weren't just experiments. They were something far worse. Dr. Kane was waiting when Alex returned to their quarters, her expression unreadable. "You've been busy," she said. "It's a shame, Alex. You had such potential." Alex tried to explain, but Kane silenced them with a raised hand. "Do you know why you're really here?" she asked. "It's not just to study them. It's to understand what happens when humans interact with the hybrids. Their intelligence, their instincts, they're adaptive. And you've been teaching them." Her words sent a chill through Alex. "Teaching them what?" "To be more like us," Kane said simply. "The next phase of evolution." The silence in the room after Dr. Kane's words felt deafening. Alex stared at her, heart pounding. The mention of evolution churned their stomach. "What do you mean by that?" Alex asked, their voice trembling. Dr. Kane leaned against the wall, her icy demeanor unbroken. "The hybrids aren't just animals, Alex. They're transitions, evolutionary steps designed to test what happens when human DNA is spliced with animal genetics. The Griffin Pax, he's part of that lineage." Alex's mind reeled. They thought of Pax's piercing gaze, his strange behavior, the scratching of symbols into the dirt, the unsettling way he always seemed to be watching, understanding. "You're experimenting on people," Alex whispered, horror dawning. "Not anymore," Kane replied. "We moved past the human trials years ago, but what we learned was invaluable. It's why we brought in new staff like you to help us perfect the hybrids without asking too many questions." Alex's stomach turned. They thought of the tanks they'd seen earlier, the hand twitching against the glass, the pulsating masses. "You're lying," Alex said, but the crack in their voice betrayed them. Dr. Kane gave a faint smile, like a teacher disappointed in a slow student. "Pax seems to like you," she said, ignoring Alex's accusation. "He's always been clever, but with you, he's advanced. We're observing something truly remarkable." Alex shook their head, stepping back toward the door. "This is insane. I'm leaving." Dr. Kane's smile faded. "No, Alex, you're not." Locked in their quarters that night, Alex sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the wall. They couldn't stay. They wouldn't. But how could they escape? The gates were locked, and every movement was monitored. A soft scratching sound broke through their thoughts. Turning, they saw Pax perched by the door, his golden eyes glinting in the dim light. He was holding something in his beak, a key card. Alex hesitated. Was this another of Dr. Kane's manipulations? But Pax nudged the card toward them insistently, letting out a low, almost pleading chirp. Taking a deep breath, Alex grabbed the card and followed the griffin into the hallway. Pax led them through the darkened corridors, avoiding the cameras with an uncanny precision. Eventually, they reached the main lab, the one Alex had stumbled upon before. Pax pawed at the door until Alex swiped the key card. Inside, Alex moved past the tanks, trying not to look too closely at the shadowy figures within. At the far end of the room, a computer screen glowed softly. Files filled the desktop. Hybrid reports, genetic sequencing logs, staff behavior monitoring. One folder stood out, Incident Log Project Eden. Alex opened it. The folder contained a series of videos, each labeled with a date. Alex clicked on the first. A young man in a lab coat stood in front of a camera, his face drawn with exhaustion. Day 32, he said. Subject 5 shows remarkable cognitive growth. She can mimic speech patterns now, but she started asking questions. Questions about the facility, about me. The video cut to footage of a hybrid, a sleek, feline creature with unnervingly human eyes. It stared directly into the camera. She's learning too fast, the man continued, his voice shaking. If this keeps up, the video ended abruptly. Alex clicked on the next file. This time, the footage showed a containment breach. The feline hybrid from the first video tore through the facility, its movements unnaturally fluid. Screams echoed in the background as the creature took down security personnel with terrifying efficiency. By the third video, the lab was in ruins. The remaining staff had barricaded themselves in a small room, the camera trembling as someone whispered, "They're out there, watching us." The final entry was nothing but static. Alex's hands shook as they closed the folder. They glanced at Pax, who was watching them intently. Had he been part of this chaos, or was he different? He nudged Alex's arm, urging them to move. Pax led Alex out of the lab, but the facility was waking up. Red emergency lights flashed in the hallways, and a voice over the intercom announced, "Unauthorized access detected. All personnel to their stations." Alex's heart raced as they ran through the twisting corridors. They could hear footsteps approaching, the barking of orders growing louder. At the gates, Alex swiped the key card, praying it would work. The scanner beeped and the gates creaked open. Freedom was just steps away. But then Pax stopped. He turned to Alex, letting out a soft chirp before backing away from the gate. Alex froze. "Come on," they urged. But Pax didn't move. Instead, he padded back toward the facility, glancing over his shoulder one last time. Alex's throat tightened. They couldn't stay, not after what they'd seen, but leaving Pax behind felt like abandoning a friend. "I'm sorry," Alex whispered, before running through the gate. Weeks later, Alex sat in a cheap motel room, staring at their laptop. They had managed to download some of the files before fleeing the sanctuary. Every time they replayed the videos or reread the reports, the same questions plagued them. Had Pax been trying to help, or had he been steering Alex towards something far darker? The news was already breaking. Fire consumes Eden's sanctuary. No survivors. Dr. Kane's smug face flashed on the screen, accompanied by speculation about illegal genetic experiments. Alex closed the laptop, their stomach churning. They thought of Pax, of the hybrids. Were they gone? Or had they escaped, blending into the world outside the sanctuary? A soft knock at the door made Alex jump. Slowly they opened it. There, sitting on the motel's worn carpet, was Pax. His feathers were singed, his golden eyes as piercing as ever. In his beak, he held a crumpled piece of paper. Alex took it with trembling hands. Scrawled across the page were 4 words. "They're watching. Trust no one." Alex stared at Pax, disbelief and relief warring inside them. The Griffin seemed both out of place and utterly at home in the dingy motel hallway. His golden eyes glinted under the flickering overhead light, his feathers ruffled but intact. The cryptic note in Alex's hand burned like a warning branded into their palm. "They're watching. Trust no one." Alex crouched to meet Pax at eye level. How did you find me?" Pax tilted his head, a soft chirp escaping his beak, before pushing past Alex into the room. The Griffin circled once on the threadbare carpet, then sat near the window, his gaze fixed on the parking lot below. Alex closed the door, heart hammering. They checked the locks twice before sitting heavily on the edge of the bed. The note's message looped in their mind. Who's watching? The government. Kane's people. Something worse? Pax let out a low rumble, breaking Alex's spiraling thoughts. Following the Griffin's gaze, they peered out the window. A black SUV idled across the street, its tinted windows like dark, unblinking eyes. Alex's stomach dropped. "Is it them?" Alex whispered, their voice barely audible. Pax gave a soft growl in response. The sound sent a chill down Alex's spine. For all of Pax's intelligence and charm, the sound reminded Alex he wasn't just an animal. He was something more, something unnatural. That night, sleep was out of the question. Alex paced the room, Pax watching with quiet intensity. Occasionally, the griffin would stand and stretch his wings, his movements elegant but restrained, as if trying not to take up too much space. Alex's laptop sat on the desk, open to the downloaded files from Eden Sanctuary. They skimmed through reports on failed experiments, anomalies in hybrid behavior, and unsettling incidents that the public never knew about. One phrase kept appearing in the reports: the integration threshold. Well, what is the integration threshold? Alex muttered, scrolling through the dense, fragmented text. Pax chirped, his talons clicking against the floor as he patted closer. He nudged the laptop with his beak, tapping the screen lightly. "What is it, buddy?" Alex asked. Pax pressed a claw to a specific line of text, his gaze locked on Alex. The sentence read, "Integration with human subjects remains unstable. Cognitive overlap is inconsistent, often resulting in rapid deterioration of host mental state." Alex's breath caught. They were trying to merge human minds with hybrids. But why? Pax chirped again, more insistent this time, and tapped at another section. It was an audio file labeled Incident Report Subject 9. Alex hesitated. They knew it would be something terrible. But they clicked play. The recording crackled to life. At first it was just muffled voices, then a panicked scream. "It's not holding!" Someone shouted. "Pull the plug!" The sound of glass shattering followed, then an inhuman screech that made Alex's skin crawl. There were more screams, growing distant, as if the recorder had been dropped in a desperate escape. Finally, a calm voice cut through the chaos. It was Dr. Kane. "Subject 9 was always promising," she said, "but failure is part of progress. Terminate the remnants and move to the next iteration." The recording ended. Alex slammed the laptop shut, bile rising in their throat. "They didn't care about the people in those experiments," Alex said aloud, their voice shaking. "They just wanted results." Pax nudged Alex's arm, his eyes sharp and focused. He was urging them forward as if to say, "You know what you have to do." The next morning, Alex packed their things. Whatever Eden Sanctuary had been trying to do wasn't over. The files, the hybrids, the ominous phrase, integration threshold. It all pointed to something larger, something that wouldn't stop with a single facility. Pax perched on the bed, watching as Alex stuffed clothes and their laptop into a battered backpack. "We're leaving," Alex told him, "but we need to figure out our next move." They couldn't risk staying in one place too long. The SUV outside was gone, but Alex knew that didn't mean they were safe. As if confirming their fears, Pax let out a low growl when Alex opened the door. His hackles rose and his eyes darted toward the end of the hallway. Two men in black suits were heading toward the room, their strides purposeful and synchronized. They were the same kind of agents who had come looking for David Nolan, the same kind who worked for Kane. "Go," Alex hissed, slinging the backpack over their shoulder. Pax darted out of the room ahead of them, his movements swift and silent. Alex and Pax bolted down the emergency stairs, their footsteps echoing in the narrow stairwell. The sound of the agent's pursuit followed, growing louder with each passing second. They burst out into the motel's back lot, the morning sun glaring off rows of parked cars. Alex spotted an old pickup truck with its windows down and sprinted toward it. Pax leapt into the bed of the truck with feline grace, while Alex fumbled with the wires under the dashboard. Their heart pounded in their ears as the engine sputtered to life. The agents emerged from the stairwell just as the truck lurched forward. One of them shouted, raising a hand to their earpiece. But Alex didn't wait to see what would happen next. They tore out of the lot, gravel spitting from the tires. "Hang on, Pax," Alex muttered, glancing in the rearview mirror. The agents were already climbing into a black car, their pursuit relentless. The chase led them out of town and onto winding back roads. Trees blurred past as Alex pushed the old truck to its limits. Pax crouched in the truck bed, his feathers slicked back against the wind. Despite the chaos, he looked calm, almost determined. The agent's car gained on them, its sleek design built for speed. Alex's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. Come on, they muttered, scanning the road ahead. A narrow dirt path branched off to the left. Without hesitation, Alex yanked the wheel, the truck skidding onto the uneven terrain. The agents followed, their car bouncing violently over the rough road. But the terrain was too much for the pursuit vehicle. A sharp turn sent the black car skidding into a ditch, its tires spinning uselessly in the mud. Alex didn't wait to celebrate. They kept driving until the road disappeared entirely, finally stopping in the shadow of the dense forest. The truck shuddered to a halt, steam rising from under the hood. Alex slumped over the wheel, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Pax leapt from the truck bed onto the hood, peering through the windshield at Alex. "I guess we lost them," Alex said, though they knew better. The agents would regroup. It was only a matter of time. Pax hopped down, leading Alex deeper into the forest. He moved with purpose, pausing occasionally to glance back and ensure Alex was following. After an hour of trekking through the woods, they came upon a small clearing. In the center stood an old weathered cabin. Its windows were shattered and vines crept up its walls, but it seemed sturdy enough. Inside, Alex found remnants of someone's life. Faded photographs, empty journals, a dusty typewriter. One journal caught their eye. Its cover bore the same logo that Pax had scratched in the dirt. Eden Sanctuary's insignia. Alex opened the journal, flipping through its brittle pages. Most were blank, but scrawled near the back was a single phrase: "The hybrids know the truth. Listen to them." Alex looked at Pax, who was sitting by the door, his golden eyes unwavering. "You brought me here for a reason," Alex said, clutching the journal. "What do you want me to do?" Pax chirped softly, then turned and walked back outside. Alex followed, stepping into the clearing. The griffins stopped at the edge of the forest, staring into the dense trees as if waiting for something, or someone. A faint rustling sound came from the shadows, then another. Alex tensed, their grip tightening on the journal. Shapes began to emerge from the trees. Hybrids, dozens of them. Griffins, serpent-like creatures. Feline beasts with glowing eyes. They moved silently, their gazes fixed on Alex. Pax stepped forward, letting out a series of soft calls. The hybrids responded in unison, their voices a strange, melodic harmony. Alex's pulse quickened. They didn't understand the words, but the message was clear. This was far from over. The hybrids surrounded Alex, their collective presence both awe-inspiring and unnerving. Each creature seemed more unnatural than the last, yet there was an undeniable beauty to them, a perfection that made Alex's skin crawl. Pax stepped forward, his golden eyes meeting Alex's, and let out a series of chirps and growls. The other hybrids responded, their sounds weaving into an eerie, discordant melody. Alex realized with a chill that it wasn't random noise. It was a form of communication, patterns, intent. "What do you want from me?" Alex whispered, their voice barely audible. Pax turned to face the group, extending his wings as if addressing an audience. The other hybrids grew quiet. From the edge of the clearing, one of the larger creatures, a serpent with wings like glass and feathers that shimmered in the moonlight, slithered forward. It lowered its head until it was level with Alex's eyes. And then it spoke. The words were not heard so much as felt, a deep vibration that resonated in Alex's bones. "You were chosen," it said, its voice a chorus of overlapping tones. "The sanctuary was only the beginning." Alex stumbled back, heart pounding. "Chosen for what?" "To see," the creature replied, coiling around itself. "To understand what humanity refuses to." Pax chirped softly and nudged Alex toward the serpent. The griffin's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, as if urging Alex to trust. Trembling, Alex stepped closer. The serpent tilted its head, and the ground beneath Alex shifted. The clearing faded, replaced by a swirling darkness filled with pinpricks of light. It was as though the universe itself had opened before them. Images flashed in rapid succession, towering cities crumbling into ruins, forests reclaiming civilization, hybrids walking among humans, their faces unreadable. And then fire. Fire consuming everything, leaving behind only ash and silence. A voice broke through the visions, sharp and clear. The threshold is near. You must choose. Alex snapped back into reality, gasping for breath. The clearing was as it had been, but the hybrids were now silent, watching. The serpent had retreated to the shadows, its shimmering wings disappearing among the trees. Pax stood beside Alex, his gaze heavy with expectation. What? What am I supposed to choose? Alex whispered, their mind racing. Pax tilted his head, then gestured with a claw toward the journal Alex still clutched. The words written inside suddenly seemed to glow as if the ink had come alive. The hybrids know the truth. Listen to them. Alex's pulse quickened. I don't understand. What truth? What does this mean? A rustling in the trees cut through the tension. Alex turned sharply, spotting a group of figures emerging from the forest, agents in black suits, their faces cold and emotionless. They moved with purpose, weapons drawn, their focus locked on the hybrids. Alex! One of them called out. It was Agent Sap. Step away from the creatures. You don't know what they're capable of. Pax growled low, his feathers bristling. The other hybrids tensed, their bodies coiling and crouching in preparation. You're lying, Alex shouted back. You've been lying this whole time. What are they really capable of? They're dangerous, Sap replied, his tone unyielding. We need to contain them before it's too late. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Alex looked at Pax, then at the other hybrids. The creatures weren't attacking. They were waiting, watching. The air seemed to vibrate with their collective presence, a silent demand for Alex to decide. Alex, Sap said again, stepping closer. You can't trust them. And I can trust you? Alex shot back. Their voice echoed in the stillness, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Sap didn't reply. Behind him, another agent raised a rifle, aiming it at Pax. Time seemed to slow. Alex's heart thundered in their chest. They had to make a choice. Stand with the hybrids or turn them over to the agents. Whatever the right answer was, Alex knew there was no turning back. The sound of a single gunshot shattered the silence.